Hey guys. Whew, 12,000 subscribers. That's incredible. I'm so grateful to you for listening and liking and subscribing and commenting and all those great things. That's amazing to me. And when I started this channel, I did not anticipate any growth. So this is kind of crazy, and I can't wait to see where we go from here. So we decided to do a Q&A for 12,000. So you guys sent in all kinds of great questions. And I'm not in my like super soundproof area right now. I'm just sitting here with my microphone going through the list, and I will get to as many of them as I can. I got a lot, so this may end up being 2 audios, but I'm hoping I can get it all into one. So let me get started. What's my biggest pet peeve? My biggest pet peeve is people who are sort of so in their own world that they forget that they're like around other people, that what they do impacts other people. And this is, something as small as the guy who blocks the shopping aisle at the grocery store with his cart, because he's just oblivious and is not paying attention, all the way up to people who just, it just does not occur to them to care about anything that doesn't personally affect them. That makes me crazy. I don't understand people who are such an island that they just do not think beyond the end of their own nose. So that's my biggest pet peeve. Did I use any references for the Kudere alien? If there were any references for her, it would sort of be like, I really like Star Trek, so it'd be like an amalgamation of Data and Seven of Nine. Because in both those cases, we're talking about characters who aren't entirely human. Seven, started human, but they're both detached at first, but they're trying to learn. They're trying to become more human. They have this, growth arc of embracing humanity and trying to discover that part of themselves and really foster it. So that's kind of what I was thinking with her, is that she doesn't start super interested in what's going on, but over time she kind of warms up and she learns more about humans and learns more about the listener and really becomes invested in that, and to the point where you know how it ends. So I apologize if I'm kind of sniffly. The allergy season is in full swing here, and yikes, it is bad today. So how do you plan an audio, writing characters, background, etc.? Okay, well, if I'm doing an audio that is an established character, an established story, then I just, move the story forward. I write the scripts extremely precisely. When I write a script, I write literally everything into it. I write the pauses, I write the sighs, the laughs, all that stuff is written into the script. Every time I say every time I say I mean, things like that, they are all written into the script. There is no room for improv in my scripts. And that is by design, because it keeps me on track. It keeps me from screwing up too much. And it also, I write in the voice that I speak in. So it sounds the most like me when I just put it all out there like that. So I do that. If I'm developing new characters, the characters in the background just sort of go together. Like I can't write in a vacuum. If there's a character that sounds interesting, I have to build her world around her in order for me to write that story. So I can't just say, oh, we have this cool mermaid, she's interesting. I have to paint a picture of what's going on in her life and what's going on in the world at large and why we should care and, things like that. So the character building and the world building go together for me, and they're just really inextricably linked. They're the same thing, basically. So I build the world, and then I just start moving the characters around inside of it. On a scale of 1 to Jaffa, how many French purple-haired puppies could fit in a 12-acre swimming pool that is made out of jelly? Okay, some backstory. This question comes from one of my patrons. His name is Sam, and Sam is hilarious, and he likes to ask me questions. If you've ever come to my live streams, he's the one asking questions that are both absurd and philosophical. Okay, first let me answer the question. I'm going to say 42 42 French purple-haired puppies, because 42 is the answer to everything, right? So 42. But let me explain the scale of 1 to Jaffa thing. So every Friday, I do a thing with my patrons on Discord where it's called Foreign Food Friday. I eat something that I've never eaten before from a place that I don't live and have never lived. Maybe visited, but never lived. So I do this in the voice chat. Everybody kind of piles in and we all chat, and then I eat something and then I comment on it, and then it just kind of spirals into a normal conversation. So the Jaffa thing is because this all kind of started with Jaffa cakes, and I'd never tried Jaffa cakes before. And, months ago, some of the people in the Discord were telling me I should try them, so I ordered some and I tried them, and they were definitely different from anything I'd had before, and I really liked them. So that was sort of the first Foreign Food Friday. It wasn't really a thing yet at that point, but we all kind of decided that it was kind of fun for me to try interesting foods. And so they started sending me some stuff, and I started tracking down my own things, and now we do it every Friday. And since the Jaffas were so good, they've become the top of the scale for at least the sweet foods that I eat. Although Jammy Dodgers are really close. They're the closest they've gotten to the top of the 1 to Jaffa scale. So what happened to Arthur the Crab? I redesigned my logo, and Arthur is no longer part of it. I decided it was time to, move forward a little bit with the channel and maybe look a little more professional, but he's still around. He lives on the Discord server as an emote. He's a little crab emoji now, and we use him there to encourage each other to practice self-care. So if somebody is struggling, if they're forgetting to eat, forgetting to hydrate, not getting enough rest, then we use Arthur to encourage that person to take better care of themselves. And the joke is sort of that, Arthur will pinch you if you don't, but really it's just us looking out for each other and trying to make sure that everybody's okay. So he lives on. Favorite comfort food? Okay, it's mac and cheese, but let me explain the context for it. So what I like to do is I like to make a box of like the blue box Kraft mac and cheese, like the super cheap stuff, and then make it according to the directions, but then put it in the refrigerator for like a night. Just put it in there and walk away. And then the next day I like to eat it cold, straight out of the fridge. It's amazing. I have no idea why I like that so much. I think it's because I had it a lot when I was a kid. I think like just the word lunch makes me think of cold Kraft mac and cheese. So I probably had it a lot, like the leftovers from the previous night's dinner. That was probably my lunch, and that's why I think of it that way. But I really like cold Kraft mac and cheese. Like, I honestly can't explain it. It's just so good. I could eat it right now. So, do you script your audios or make it up as you go along? Yeah, I script almost all of them. There are a couple that are not scripted. The very first was an ad lib, and the gamer one the other day, that was more of an ad lib. It didn't start that way, but then in order to make that sound fairly accurate with the clicking, I queued up a 1v1 and just played it through, but pretended that it was an ARAM and spoke as though I was playing with somebody. But that, at least that way the clicking was accurate. So yeah, that was not scripted as far as what I was saying during the game, but all my other audios are very, very tightly scripted. I have to. I have to script them. Have you made friends with other ASMR YouTubers, and would you make crossover or collab audios? No, I haven't really gotten to know any of them. It's interesting how little overlap there is. Like, there's a lot of people on YouTube doing this, but they don't necessarily interact with each other. I mean, we're all in different places. We all have different core competencies. I would definitely be open to a collab. And I mean, we've talked about this before. I haven't felt like my channel is big enough to reach out to others and be like, hey, let's work together. Because, it feels like a bigger deal than I am, but maybe that's changing now. And if somebody were to reach out to me, I would certainly be open to it. The challenge with collabs, other than time and making sure that everybody can get their parts together, is making sure that the script is something that people are all comfortable with. Everybody involved has to like their part and has to be comfortable playing that part and feel like they're getting a good shake out of the script. So yeah, but if all those stars aligned, I would absolutely be open to it. Yeah, definitely. Who or what inspired you to do voice acting? I don't know. I have no idea. I've never done any sort of acting. I've never done any sort of drama. I took one like theater lit class in high school for a semester, and it was mostly just studying plays, not performing them. And the brief performance I did was terrible. So I've never been told I have a good speaking voice. I've never gotten any feedback in that regard. So I don't know. I don't know what made me start doing this. I started by listening to other VAs, started with ASMR strictly, and then into just like VA role plays. And then, wrote scripts for some, and then decided just to start writing scripts for myself. And to this day, I'm not really sure why. It's nothing that I would have predicted I would do, but I'm enjoying it, so I'm glad I did. Have you thought about what would happen if you had 1 million subs? Would you still do the same content? 1 million subs is, I guess it's not impossible, but boy, that's far in the future, which is okay. As far as the same content, yeah, I probably would. I like what I do. I like the stories that I tell. I like the writing side. I like, crafting these characters and giving them worlds to play in. So I imagine I would do the same content. I might be a little more polished. I might have people, helping me to make it like a more comprehensive thing, but yeah, it would be the same probably. What's my own favorite series of mine, or one I'm particularly proud of? It's like you're asking me for my favorite child. I'm particularly proud of the way I ended the Cutere Alien, because that one, it's one that you had to know going in that they were not going to be able to stay together in the form that they were, and you'll notice I do that a lot, and I don't necessarily do it on purpose, but I kind of do because I like conflict. Is that the listener and the character have fundamental differences that keep them from being, able to interact long term in a single space, like the mermaid. That's not, they can't possibly live in the same area. They just can't. So, and that's a big challenge. But I like how I decided to end the alien one, and I won't spoil it if you haven't heard it, but I thought that was the best way to wrap it up and still have a satisfactory ending. So, and I was able to do it in just a few episodes, which usually I'm kind of a meanderer. I like to let stories unravel, which tends to make them long and windy. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I was pretty pleased with myself for wrapping that one up as tightly as I did. Sorry, it's a Diet Coke moment. Other than that, obviously I like the vampire roommate. I've said before, she's kind of the most like me, so I relate to her. The water nymph was fun. There's a lot of them that they're all fun in their own way, and they're all uniquely challenging in their own way too. So, am I washing my hands? Oh yeah, I'm washing my hands a lot. What do I prefer to do in my free time? I have a few hobbies. I like to read. I like to write. My scripts and stuff. This is like, I have a day job, so this is my hobby, but I also like to do art. I like to sketch, and I'm not very good at it, but I like to do it. I like to knit. Again, I'm not very good at it, but I've got a purple scarf in the works right now that I will continue working on until I'm out of yarn. I like to kickbox when my gym is open. Actually, I think my gym is technically open right now, but I don't feel comfortable going back to it yet, so eventually I will get back into it. In the meantime, I, go for jogs and walks and things like that. What else do I do for fun? I like to cook. There's a lot of things I can't do right now, like travel. I like to travel, but I can't right now, so. But yeah, things like that. Any guilty pleasures? Yeah, of course. Everybody's got guilty pleasures. I feel like some of the anime I watch is a guilty pleasure. Like if I'm watching Ouran High School Host Club for the 4th time, that's probably a guilty pleasure because, I love that show. It's so silly, but I love it. I like to bake things that aren't super good for me. It's kind of a guilty pleasure. Favorite type of cheese? That's a mood thing, isn't it? Like, you have to be in the mood for certain kinds of cheese. Like sometimes I'm in the mood for like a sharp cheddar, and sometimes I'm in the mood for like a creamy brie, like a brie on French bread or brie on like Granny Smith apple. That sounds good actually right now. There's a cheese though I tried at a restaurant once that I probably need to order. It was called Barely Buzzed, and I think it had like coffee rubbed into the rind of it, and it was actually a really tasty cheese, a very mild, creamy cheese. I think it was made with cow's milk, and it was very, very good. And I don't know if it would be my favorite cheese, because again, sometimes you're just in the mood for certain cheese. But that was a long answer for something that probably should not have been that convoluted, but cheese is a very serious topic. So what pushed me into making audios? Nothing. I don't know what pushed me into making audios. I just started doing it and didn't stop doing it. I launched the channel on September 30th of last year, and how many months is that? February, March, April, May. So we're coming up on 8 months. Yeah. Wow, that's a lot. But yeah, I don't, nothing in particular pushed me. I just did it. Do you have a favorite daddy trope? I mean, who doesn't love a good soon, right? Soons to a point. I like soons that come around. If someone's a soon all the time and they just never get any warmer and they never get any more open about their feelings, that could be annoying. That could be very, closed off. But I don't mind starting that way and then thawing out. The gradual, like that's why we like soons, I think, is watching them gradually open up. But really, I like most of them, except for Yandere. I'm not a fan of Yandere. I've never been into like the stalking obsessive trope. That just doesn't do anything for me. But most of them are good in their own way. Which character is the hardest to voice? Speaking of Yandere, Pepper, the imaginary friend. Pepper's the hardest to voice because she's got that like Annie from League of Legends voice that's high-pitched and childlike and hurts my face to do. And I don't mind doing it, but there's a reason why I only did 2 episodes with her. And I might come back to her, but, I don't have any plans to right now, so we'll see. What kind of music are you into? All music except country. I really don't like country. I've never been into country. I've tried, but it doesn't work for me. But other than that, like whatever mood I'm in, if I'm working out, if I'm trying to relax, if I'm driving, if I'm, wallowing in something, there's music for all of that, and it just kind of depends on my mood. Does music play a role in the process, or do I listen to it while editing? I mean, I can't listen to music while I'm editing because I got to listen to the audios that I'm working on. But as far as the process, I really can't. I can't listen to music while I'm writing. I really can't have it in my ear while I'm doing stuff important because it distracts me because I like it. So I mostly have to work in pretty quiet conditions, which is fine. What's your dream job? Actually, kind of right now it's this. Like I've really enjoyed doing this. I didn't expect to as much as I do. I didn't expect it to be what this is, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, I am really absolutely enjoying this, and it would be cool if I could do this as my day job. That would be pretty interesting. Have I considered kickboxing professionally? No. No, I'm not that kind of person. I don't like fighting other people. I like to fight the bag. I like to work out, but I don't. Plus, I'm not that good. I mean, I'm not super strong. My left roundhouse is pretty solid. My right hook's pretty solid, but yeah, I'm not really a fighter. Do I watch or follow other martial arts? No, I really don't. I follow a little bit of jiu-jitsu because I've got family that does it, but by and large, I just don't. I'm not a violent person. I don't like watching people fight. I don't like watching people slug it out, blood on the mat, that kind of thing. Like, it just doesn't really do much for me, so I don't watch it. It's not my thing. Okay, 3 things I want to do after quarantine ends. First, I want to go to Disney World. I live in Florida, not close to Disney World, but I would drive to get there and spend a day or two doing that. That sounds like fun. Also, go to the beach. Technically, I think the beaches are open here, but I don't feel comfortable going there yet. So once I'm comfortable with it, I'd like to go back down there and dig my toes into the sand and say hi to Arthur. Um, and the other thing would be travel internationally. I kind of had just gotten into doing that again right before this all started, and I would like to do more of that. So once the world is open up again, I can get back on a plane and go see places that I don't usually get to see, which sounds fun. If I could teach one concept to everyone on Earth, what would it be? Empathy. Hands down, empathy. Something shouldn't have to affect you directly for you to care. And it shouldn't be hard to recognize that when we look after each other and when we're there for each other, even if we don't stand to gain personally ourselves, it benefits all of us. It's good for society as a whole. It's good for the community as a whole to have that level of care for each other, even total strangers. Would I do a Sith role play, and am I familiar with Star Wars? Yes, I am familiar with Star Wars. Is there anybody that's not familiar with Star Wars? I mean, maybe, but as far as a Sith role play, probably not, and the reason is I don't like to play with intellectual property that is not my own. That's why I don't do like anime characters, I don't do Pokemon trainers, I don't do, Star Trek characters, anything like that, because it's not mine, and, there's kind of two reasons for that. One is because I just feel wrong about it. If I didn't make it, I feel like I shouldn't be using it, and it's just kind of The other reason too, though, is that using an established universe restricts what I'm able to do. If I didn't invent the universe, I have to play by its rules, and sometimes those rules are frustrating. And as an example of that, the Helen of Troy series that I'm currently working on, which should be wrapping up here pretty soon, it's been fun, but I am bound by the rules that have already been established in the mythology. These characters already exist, these places already exist, and I have to follow. And I've had to spend a lot of time on research and study to make sure that I get it right, even for small details. And it's fun, but it's also exhausting. And having like 47 tabs open to everything from, Cersei to the Roman Forum there's a lot there, and I didn't write any of it. That's a different creation, and it restricts me pretty severely in what I'm able to do. So, yeah, I will leave other intellectual property to others. And I know there are VAs who do, plenty of other characters, and that's super cool for them. I love it. I love listening to it, but it's just not for me. Do I write all the scripts? Yes, I do. I don't accept scripts written. I do accept ideas. If people have ideas for cool characters or a cool story, I'm always open to that. I will accept them and consider them and play with them. And I've done many characters based on suggestions, like the Tsundere Mermaid was a suggestion. The Knight's Looking for the Puppy, that was a suggestion. Most of them, not all, but a lot. But yeah, in the end, I have to write the scripts myself, partly to make sure that they are in my voice. Like I said, I write them very tightly so that they are how I speak, but also because I don't want to have any issues with using intellectual property that is not mine. And I know there are ways for writers to release ownership of their scripts when they turn them over, but I don't have a path set up for that right now, and I don't really feel like I need to, because I like the writing. I like doing that part. That's my wheelhouse. I'm a writer by trade. So the writing of the scripts, even though it sometimes frustrates me and sometimes I kind of dread having to do it, but, because there are days when you just don't feel like writing or you get writer's block, but it's still the part that I am the most familiar with and the most comfortable with. The recording and the editing of audios and things like that, that's all extremely new to me. That's all really just as old as this channel is, but the writing has been all my life. So I am perfectly happy to keep doing my own writing. But if you have ideas, by all means, fire them off. I'd love to hear them. Did you have any experience in acting before starting this channel? Nope, I did not. I did not at all. I mean, I've said before, I have experience being human and, feeling human emotions and things like that. So I feel like that prepared me to a point. And I try to keep the scripts about things that I not things I've experienced, but like emotions I've experienced, because it's hard to act, I suppose, for something you've never actually felt before. And the few times I've tried to do that, I feel like I don't do it very effectively. So, yeah, I don't have any training in acting or anything like that. Do I have any pets? Yes, I've got dogs and a cat. And my cat is very fat. He is a very fat cat. And my patrons get to see pictures of him a lot on the Discord because he poses so well. But yeah, no, he's not getting any smaller. When is my birthday? My birthday's in March. And just had it, so how do I get my inspiration for the ideas? Yeah, either something pops into my head fully formed, or it's an idea that somebody suggested and I start to play with and flesh out and massage into something I can use. What's my favorite cake? That's kind of a mood thing, like the cheese. Sometimes you're in the mood for a cheesecake, sometimes you're in the mood for, something fluffy and light, like angel food. I will say I really like Black Forest cake. I like that chocolate cherry thing. My mom used to make a mean Black Forest cake. It was good. I don't know the last time she made it, but I may have to bug her and make a Black Forest cake. Where is the line between cake and pie, and which is my favorite? I think the line between cake and pie is pretty well defined. They're completely different pastries. And I don't really have a favorite because they're completely different pastries. They're hard to compare, and they're both so good. I love like a good key lime pie. I love a good chocolate cake. That's a Sophie's choice you got going on right there. But I will say that they both make an excellent breakfast. So there you go. How do you handle scary movies? I don't really watch scary movies. I had never been an adrenaline junkie. I don't like jump scares, and I really don't like gory, bloody things. Like, they don't make me sick or anything. I just don't really want to look at them. Like, when I see movies, I want to be entertained in a positive way. I want to be made to feel better than before I sat down. And even though scary movies usually end okay, not always, but frequently will end okay, the bulk of the movie is designed to make you uncomfortable and throw you off and be unsettling. And that feeling I just don't really enjoy. I don't get much out of that. I don't mind watching a scary movie if I'm with people that want to, but when it's my choice, I generally will not do that. So I don't really have any recommendations on that score. Would you enjoy going to a maid cafe, and would you ever consider being a maid in a maid cafe? If I was someplace where there was a maid cafe, I probably would not mind going. It sounds like a good time. I don't know if I would be a maid in a maid cafe. I guess if they offered me a job and it was solid work. I don't know. Interesting question. Do you have any plans to bring Snowstorm Girl back? As usual, never say never, but as of right now, I don't. The thing about that story is that, first of all, it started as a one-off. That first episode where they're trapped in the shack in the blizzard was meant to end ambiguously, and then I was planning to leave it there so that the listener could decide whether they got out or not, and that was sort of on you guys. But there were so many comments and people asking for a part 2 and asking to know if they made it, and I was like, well, I guess I can't leave it like that. And I already had a coma script in the works, so I said, you know what, I'm going to refit this coma script to be part 2 of the Blizzard story, and that's how that progressed. But now, these are characters that were brought together by a shared misfortune, a shared traumatic experience. And we've explored a lot of that. We went through the actual experience with them. We went through the fallout with the coma. We went through the hashing out their feelings, the PTSD with the nightmares. And at this point, they're just kind of a regular couple. I guess they could still have a little bit of trauma to work through and things like that. But at this moment, I think of them as just kind of a regular couple that's going through their normal couple life. So there's just not a lot of meat to that story now that they are no longer in harm's way, I guess. So yeah, I don't have any immediate plans to bring them back. I might someday. I might put them on vacation together or something, but right now it's not on my radar. How many people in my real life know that I am the great urban nymph? The great urban nymph. At first, there were only a couple of people that knew, and because I didn't anticipate this becoming a thing. It was just a hobby. Now it's probably more like 10 to 12 people in my real life know. And I mean, some of them don't know the name of the channel, they just know that I have a channel. Most of them I don't think listen because they think that'd be weird, which I agree with. That might feel weird to me too if I knew they were listening. But, my real life friends and family are supportive, and even if they don't get it, they're happy for me. So, do I have any tattoos? And if so, what are they? I do have a tattoo. I will leave it at that. What's my sexuality? I am cisgender, heterosexual. Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe me. Do you think it's cheating to listen to audios like this if I don't get it from my relationship? If you're in a relationship and you are not satisfied with that relationship, then that is a conversation that you need to have. I mean, I don't know if listening to audios where you are getting the affirmations that you need behind your partner's back, I don't know if that would count as cheating. Obviously, it varies from relationship to relationship. I mean, every relationship's got their own definition of what cheating is and what that constitutes. But the greater issue is that if there's something that you are lacking in your relationship, then that is something that you should probably talk about with your partner and work together to ensure that you're both getting what you need and what you want. In a healthy and compromising fashion. But yes, I mean, communication is key in relationships. So please, please, please communicate. If you're in a relationship and you're unhappy, work together. And always try to see it as you and your partner versus the problem, not you versus your partner, where possible. I realize there are some very unhealthy relationships out there where that just does not work. But if you're in an otherwise good relationship and you've just got some things to work through, work together and communicate. Communicate so much. It's so worth it. According to you, what is the best bad movie or TV show of the so bad it's good quality? You know what? That's a good question. I mean, in my recent viewing, I would probably say, in recent, I mean like in the past several months, Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. It didn't get great reviews. Critics didn't love it, but I was entertained by it. I thought it was fun and silly and entertaining, and I enjoyed it a lot. I like dumb cheese. Like, not saying that that's necessarily dumb cheese, although it kind of is, but like miscongeniality and, things like that where the movies are just kind of silly, but they're fun and who cares? Suspend your disbelief and have a good time. It's just a movie. Do you actually record your audios in a closet? Yes, I do, and a lot of VAs do. Closets are great. They are incredibly well insulated with clothes, and they don't generally have vents in them, and they are perfect. So yes, I do. Favorite movies and or games? For games, right now I play League of Legends and I play Final Fantasy XIV. I like to watch people stream things like Valorant and Rocket League and Elite Dangerous, things like that. Sometimes I just like to zone out and watch other people play games. Favorite movies? Again, I like dumb cheese. I like entertaining. I like just to have a smile on my face, and I don't care if it's silly or stupid, but it's fun. So, I mean, I like Princess Bride. That's a really good movie. I like Shawshank Redemption, of course. That's not dumb cheese. That's solid filmmaking, but it's a really good movie. Recently, a movie that I saw that I was surprised I liked so much was Baby Driver. Not necessarily because the story was so great, but because the filmmaking was so great. Like, I loved all of the lighting and the cinematography in that. I loved the framing of the shots. I loved the soundtrack, the music that was, I guess, mostly diegetic because the kid was listening to it the whole time. But the cuts, how, even the bullet shots, the shots from the gun were cut to fall on the beats of songs. That's awesome. Like, I love solid filmmaking, solid cinematography. It's entertaining. It feels very viscerally satisfying to watch that. Um, Iron Man or Captain America, who was right in Civil War? Oof. I mean, they both had excellent points. I have days where I kind of agree more with Iron Man, and I have days where I agree more with Captain America. So I don't even know if I can pick a side in that fight. Where did the idea for Vampire Roommate come from? That one. So I was listening to a live stream by another VA, a guy, and somebody asked him, like, if you wanted to start an audio channel or something like that, what character would be very popular to do? And he, without hesitation, said Yandere Vampire, which at the time I thought it was funny, and but I thought about it and I was like, I'm not into Yandere. I don't like Yanderes at all, but the vampire thing sounds like it might be fun. But my way of playing with things is to take those fantasy elements and put them into real world scenarios, which obviously I do a lot, and I get such a tickle from it, so I'm never going to stop. So I was thinking, well, what about, and I'd already been kind of turning over like a friends to lovers type scenario in my head with like a roommate, and I'd been trying to think of a way to make that interesting, because just a straight up friends to lovers roommate scenario, even though it's perfectly fine as a concept, in my head it was boring. So after I heard that thing about the Yandere Vampire, I thought, well, what about I throw the vampire into this friends to lovers thing that I've been thinking about? And that's how that came about. And it was supposed to be, again, sort of a one-off. It was just a friends to lovers roommate script where one character happened to be a vampire. And I liked the idea of the vampire being basically a normal person who happened to be a vampire, like boring job, hates shoes, loves popcorn, that kind of thing. Because I think that's relatable. I think, in worlds where vampires exist, they are people too. And even the more fantasy type vampires still have to fill the rest of their day with something. So that's how that came about. I didn't anticipate it being a series, but because it was so popular, I decided there was a lot more I could do with those characters, and that's where we are now. Where did the idea come from for the Stuck in a Blizzard couple? That was, the Blizzard couple was an example of me putting characters in a box and poking them with a stick, which I really like to do, probably too much. I like to wreak havoc on people, and I just had this passing thought. We were coming into winter, and I had this passing thought of, what would happen if this happened to people. And again, I mentioned before, that was sort of meant to be an ambiguous ending and not a series, just a one episode, do they or don't they get out? That's kind of up to you to decide. But in the end, people really wanted them to get out, so I went with the crowd. Plans for future role plays. Oh yeah, there's there's a lot of plans in the works for future role plays, so definitely stay tuned. Favorite animal. My favorite animal is a pygmy marmoset. It's a little bitty monkey. It's really cute. What's your favorite type of audio to do? Friends to lovers, girlfriends, myth alignments. This is kind of a two-part answer, because as far as the outcomes, like, I like when the fantasy ones are done. I like how they sound when they're finished, like the Elf Bandit or the Scavenger. That said, those are hard to make because the stories are kind of convoluted and elaborate. There's a lot more to them. And even after I'm done with the dialogue, I have to build the soundscape around it. Most of them require kind of a lot of soundscaping. The background sounds, the sound effects, things like that. I mean, there'll be times when I'll finish cleaning up the audio track of just my voice and will have taken notes for 20 to 30 timestamps of places where I have to drop in some sound effect or something. And then I have to go through and do all of that. So building that can take, a long time. But I really like the outcome. I like how those turn out. So there's that. But as far as my favorite type to actually do, like to record, I actually really like the myth alignments. And I think that's because if I didn't do those, I would probably forget to do those. If I didn't make them a weekly thing that I devoted my time to, I would probably not do as many comfort audios and simple, caring, affirming audios, because I would get so caught up in the fantasy ones and not look back. So I'm glad I do the myth alignments, because they make me slow down and think about the positive, caring, affectionate things that really need to be said. and focus on those things. And sometimes it's a challenge. I alternate between comfort for negative things like nightmares, anxiety, stuff like that. And then that's like every other week on the myth alignments. And then the in between weeks, I try to do the more positive, affirming things like, I love this about you. I love that about you. And these are things that I think everybody does need to hear. I mean, whether you're in a relationship or not, it's easy to forget to compliment and affirm and vocalize the affection you have for somebody else. And that's not just, romantic relationships. It's family, it's friends, being appreciative, being grateful, and putting that into words. People love to hear it. People like to be told that they are cared about and they are loved and they are appreciated. And I feel like it's just so easy to take people for granted. So the myth alignments make me take a step back and be thoughtful about things like that and then put it out there for you guys to hear. Do you play video games, and on what console? I do play video games. I play on the PC. How do you plan your scripts and the general storylines behind them? Do you put together a general outline that you fill in over time? Yeah, I've got I don't have it written down. Most of my stories have an arc. I know where it's going in a general sense usually. Sometimes I will change direction when I'm a few episodes in and go, you know what, this is going to take me more episodes than I want. I'm going to shortcut this or something like that, but I still end up kind of going to the same place I planned eventually. But yeah, as far as a general point A to point B, I do have it in mind when I start. Or if not when I start, at least after the first episode. I don't have to get very far into a story before I know where it's going. But the path that I take to get there could vary. Sometimes I think this needs another episode, or this needs another, set of explanation. And so I will buy myself more time to do that because I think it's worth digging in and really being thorough and telling these stories. As an audio actress, have you gotten any unexpected people from your personal life to match your voice to your audios? No, I'm not big enough for strangers to come up on the street and say, I recognize your voice. I doubt that will ever happen, but I mean, I don't know what I would do if it did, but yeah, I'm fairly anonymous. How tall am I? I am 5'5". Very average. Will Ember return? Ember was the house dragon. If you weren't around early on, I did a live stream at 3,000, I think it was 3,000 subscribers, where we ended up brainstorming an idea for a pet dragon that's like dog-sized and lives in your house. And then I finally delivered on that audio. I recorded an audio about having a house dragon. Speaking of putting fantasy characters in a mundane world, that was another example of that, where I like to, here's somebody with a normal life in a normal house who just happens to have a pet dragon instead of a pet dog or a cat. So Ember is the dragon, and he's adorable. I don't know if I'll bring him back. He was a challenge to voice, but he might come back. Second choice for mythical pet. I always thought having a Pegasus would be cool. I like the thought of a horse that could fly. It's so practical. Think of all the places you could go, and it's still a horse, so it's cool. It looks cool. Is it weird to record audios? It was at first. Yeah, it really was. It takes some getting used to, but I've gotten very used to it now, so I'm okay with it. Favorite Pokemon? Spoink. Spoink is my favorite Pokemon. I love that thing. I don't know why. I just do. Everybody's got a favorite. You don't have to have a reason. What weird thing would you like to try? I mean, as long as it's not super dangerous or super scary or something, I will try most things at least once. I don't like to limit myself and say, oh, I will never do that, because, there's such a big world out there and so many things to experience. And I don't ever want to hold myself back too much. But that said, I don't want to take stupid chances either. So, I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head as far as weird things that I would like to try, but I'm game for most. Did you ever have a time that your life was in risk, and what was that? No, not really. I mean, I've never been in a serious car accident. I've never been seriously ill. I've never really felt like my life was in any danger, which I guess makes me lucky. What question do you want to answer, and what is the answer to it? Honestly, you guys ask so many great questions. I really can't think of any that I was hoping somebody would ask and didn't. That hasn't really come up. You guys have come up with so many questions that I didn't even think of, so yeah, I can't think of anything. What is your strangest food preference? I mean, other than the cold mac and cheese, I suppose. Strangest food preference. I mean, I like seafood a lot. I like escargot. I don't know if escargot counts as strange. Calamari, things like that. I mean, I don't do super spicy things. I don't do most vegetables. I don't know. Strange food preference. Yeah, honestly, that's a good question. I just like what I like, and I don't really think of it as strange, I suppose. I mean, I like to dip French fries in chocolate shakes, but everybody does that. If you had $1 million, how would you spend it? Like if I had $1 million free and clear after taxes and all that good stuff, I'm pretty boring. I'd probably put like half of it into savings and pay off some stuff and give a nice chunk of it to charity. I really like to support the charities that I care about. I mean, I might spend a little bit on myself, but I'm kind of boring. Maybe take a trip once quarantine's over. Like that'd be a fun use of it. Or they have these kind of cool sound booth things that you can put in the corner of a room, and they're like just like a little closet again, but it's like it's incredibly enclosed, and it's just soundproofed all the way around on the inside. And those are a few $1,000s. That would be really cool. That would certainly make audios easier. Have you considered doing voice acting outside of your own projects? Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly open to that. I hadn't thought about it much before, but as this kind of grows and continues, I'm certainly open to that. I don't really know how to get into something like that, but I would definitely consider it if the possibility arose. Will you create a sequel for Saving the Superhero? That was another one that was, a one-off for a reason. I liked how it ended. But again, never say never. If I get an idea where I want to go with that, because there's a lot of places I could go with that. We could explore how she got her powers. We could explore what happened to the hero in the first place, or why the emergency services never showed up, things like that. But until something, pops into my head that goes, wow, you really got to tell this story, I probably won't pursue them anytime soon. I don't want to force it. And I've got all these other series that I am working on. So, I mean, for now, I'll say never say never. I probably will revisit those two eventually, but it would have to be something where I just can't resist telling their story. Will Tsundere Mermaid get a season 2? Again, never say never. I like her. I like that story. It's another awkward one because the two can't really be in the same place for long, but she's a fun character, so I predict that at some point they probably will come back. Do you like to read, and what's your favorite book of all time? I do like to read. I don't really have a favorite book of all time, though. I read a lot of different things. I like short story compilations. I like memoirs. I like fantasy and science fiction a lot. But yeah, I wouldn't say I have a favorite book. That's really hard. How many breads have you eaten in your life? Are we talking like types of bread or individual pieces of bread? The answer to both is a lot. I like bread. I like bread a lot. I actually learned how to make bread during this quarantine. I made my first loaves of just regular bread, and then I also made focaccia, which, oh my god, that was so good. Focaccia was really good. I recommend making that at home. Do you watch anime? What's your favorite? Yes, I do watch anime. I watch probably too much anime. As far as favorite, I mean, over the years, I've liked Assassination Classroom. I've liked Ouran High School Host Club. I like Noragami. I like Promise Neverland. Right now, I'm watching Kaguya-sama Love is War Season 2. Strongly recommend that show. That's a great show. I could just watch a show of Chica by herself. I would just watch that. Um, Also, My Hero Academia is really good. Oh, that's not on right now, but I recommend it. Um, right now, I'm also watching the Life is a Villainous, All Routes Lead to Doom. That one's cute. Um, what else am I watching? Fruits Basket season 2 right now, which again I recommend Fruits Basket seasons 1 and 2. I'm also watching I'll Know a Zero, which I am entertained by. So yeah, I mean, I like most anime. It doesn't really matter what genre as long as it's a good show. I like solid artwork. I like solid writing. I liked Kono Oto Tomare Sounds of Life, which sounds like such a boring show. It's just about a bunch of high schoolers in a koto club at school playing instruments. And on the surface, it is absolutely the most boring premise you'll ever hear. But I was so entertained by it. Like, I loved that show. So I hope it comes back. Um, what's your favorite pastime outside of ASMR? Please be a motorcycle girl. Okay, I have ridden motorcycles, never as the driver. I'm always a passenger on motorcycles. I have my icon jacket, I have my helmets, I have my gloves, all the gear all the time, guys. If you ride motorcycles, I will judge you if you're not wearing all the gear all the time. There's no reason to not. That said, I don't have a motorcycle and I generally don't ride them very often. But I see the appeal. But yeah, as far as hobbies go, I like to read, write, draw, knit, cook, travel, kickbox when the gym is open. What do you do professionally? I work in communications. I actually do use my degree. What is it like filming during the lockdown? It's exactly the same as it was before. I write my scripts and then I record them. It hasn't really changed. If anything, it's gotten me a little more time since I really can't go do anything else. I'm forced to do the things that I procrastinate on. So, will you be having more vampire roommate? Yes, I definitely will. She's not going anywhere. She is a fun character. She's been very popular, and I have no interest in ending their story anytime soon. That said, I will be incorporating more mundane slice of life type things for them because I've been trying to sort of go back and forth between forwarding the overarching plot and taking slower steps to catch breath and regroup and things like that. So, like the bonus content that I put out after the last live stream was just a little, an evening with the vampire roommate and the listener, and there's nothing really in particular going on except like an anniversary, and it doesn't further the main story arc at all. It's just there, and it's fun, and it's cute, and I like that. So I will definitely be doing more of those with them, but also trying to move the main plot forward. So, but yeah, they're not going anywhere. I plan to keep them around for a long time. Why do you always call us sweetness? Because you are my sweetness. No, when I've been in relationships, I've had terms of endearment that, it seems like each individual relationship sort of has its own term of endearment that gets used more often. I don't know if that works that way for you guys, but for me, when I'm seeing someone, I generally have a pet name for them that is unique to that person. And I've used sweetness in the past, but never in that context. Like, it's never been the pet name I use for somebody. It's always just sort of been a kind of a throwaway, like honey or something like that. So when I was working on this channel and I was trying to think of a fun term of endearment to use, I thought of that one since, I have used it, but not much, and I genuinely like it. I like calling people sweetness. So I thought, you know what, that would be a fun one to use. It's not super common, but I feel like it gives a good warm fuzzy to hear somebody call you that. So, yeah, that's why. One message I'd give to my fans. So this is the last question. If I had one message to give to my fans, it would be, I am so grateful for you. And I know that sounds kind of cliche, but honestly, like, I couldn't do any of this without you. I couldn't have a channel if people weren't listening to it. I couldn't have live streams where we raise thousands of dollars for charity if you guys weren't a part of it. So I feel like grateful is not a strong enough word. Each and every one of you means so much to me, and I hope you know how valuable you are and how worthy you are and just how special you are. And I hope that the audios add something to your life. I hope that you are entertained. I hope that you are comforted. I hope that if you're having a rough day and you just need a kind word, I hope that you know that the kind words that I'm putting out there are absolutely in earnest, because I know that there are people who need to hear them. Hell, sometimes I need to hear them. And I find that putting that affirmation out there for others makes me feel better also when I'm struggling. So those words are absolutely for you, and I hope you take them to heart, because you are loved. And I am so thankful that you're in my life. Okay, on that note, the 12K Q&A has officially wrapped up. So thank you all so much for the great questions and for being a part of this channel and community with me and being on this journey with me. It's been interesting and fun, and I cannot wait to see where we go next. I'm so excited about it, and I hope you'll stay with me on this path. So thank you, and I love you very much, and I will talk to you soon.